Oh, look at you here right now, listening to episode 20 of the Spotlight Games podcast. Oh, run faster. There's someone behind you coming at you. Just kidding. Hi, my name's Patrick. I'm joined by the person running after me, Cayman. How are you, Cayman?
I'm always running after you, baby. I'm doing great. Great, man.
Oh, he's doing great, folks. I'm doing great. I'm getting a little toasty in here. I was like, it's warm in my room. I better put on my sweater. Sweater's coming off, folks.
Sweater's coming off, guys.
Sweater's coming off. We're getting serious. And you know why we're getting serious, Cayman?
Tell me why we're getting serious, Patrick.
Because we have a whole lot of video games stuff to talk about, because that's what we do here at the Spotlight Games podcast, where each and every week we're going to talk about the latest and the greatest in the world of video games. You can get it by subscribing to our YouTube channel or by subscribing in your favorite podcast app. And hey, while you're there, we'd love it if you rate and review the podcast on the podcast app of your choice. Don't forget, you can be on the show by emailing us your thoughts and questions to mail@spotlightgames.net, or you can DM us on Twitter at SpotGamesPod or on Instagram at Spotlight Games Podcast. Our newest episode of Save Trash Cinema, the premier podcast all about trash pieces, hosted by our very own Cayman Darty, dropped last week, and the next episode is going to be a spicy one next week. Are we officially announcing what the next movie is right here, right now?
Let's fucking do it right now. Let's do it right now.
Do it,
boys and girls and everyone in between. Get ready for it. We are doing a very special episode of Save Trash Cinema this upcoming week. Now, that movie that we're going to be doing is not going to be a normal movie that we normally do. We are actually going to be tackling a modern grindhouse film. That film, my friends, that film is going to be the classic 2017 Zombievers. It is let's just say it's a good time. If you like babes, beavers, and blood,
ooh,
let me tell you, you're going to get an abundance of all three.
Is there an innuendo in there, Cayman?
Yes.
Great. I've not seen the movie. I've heard a lot about it, so I'm excited. A friend of ours is going to be on it, and I'm excited to have all of these things coming together.
Be a good time.
So keep an eye out for that. But today we have a great show for you. We're going to be talking about the game that is coming out tomorrow. If you're listening the day this comes out, Horizon Forbidden West. We have a reviews roundup. We're not big enough. We're not the big time yet. We didn't get copies in advance. So we're just talking about what other people are saying.
Shoot, hey, we're here, man.
Yeah, we're ready.
Here, shoot, hey, you can give us review copies. We are ready to tackle the big ones.
We're ready. So we're going to do that. Cyberpunk 2077, 14 months later, finally actually supposedly works now that they did this big patch. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Uncharted movie that is hitting theaters today on day of release. The reviews are, how do we say, not so good. So we will talk about all of that. But first, Cayman, let's start this episode as we start all of our episodes here at the Spotlight Games podcast with what we've been playing. So, Cayman, how's that for a pregnant pause? What have you been playing?
That was like a 9-month pregnant pause.
We got twins, baby. What are we playing?
I've been playing Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, a Borderlands one-shot.
Talking about beavers, talking about colons.
Yeah, we're talking about we're getting wild.
We're getting wild here.
This show's really starting off. She's getting ready to fuck. Yeah, no, I've been playing Assault on Dragon Keep, and I will say I played the entire one-shot with my fiance. We sat down, we coped. It was her very first FPS that she's ever played. And we have had a blast playing it. If you are unfamiliar, the Borderlands one-shot, what this was a DLC to Borderlands 2 that they wrapped up together. They remastered it, made it look a lot prettier, and then released it as a standalone item. If you had PlayStation Plus, that was a free game for February. Highly recommend jumping on and playing it. If you haven't, pick it up. It's like $10. They are setting this up because in March, we actually get Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Now, what makes this different from a normal Borderlands game is the game is set as a Dungeons and Dragons style game. So as you're playing it's like a normal Borderlands game, but characters, instead of looking normal, they're all dressed up in armor. They're all talking in fantasy George R.R. Martin speak. The side quests are all hilarious, and they're all very much Dungeons and Dragons styled. The game is Borderlands to a T. So if you liked Borderlands, you're getting more Borderlands. If you didn't like Borderlands, I'm sorry, you're probably not going to enjoy this much. But I will say, with a slight caveat, it's a lot more accessible to someone who maybe didn't play Borderlands, or maybe someone who didn't really enjoy the humor or whatnot. The game is it's a lot different in a certain way, and that's more so the narrative focus is way different. Like, you have narrators that are telling you like, oh, and you have to roll a critical dice, and like the way they implement it's really fun. But the game is just, oh man, I've had so much fun playing it. And as Sydney, my fiance, she's never played an FPS game. Immediately was able, within probably the first 30 minutes to an hour, was able to pick it up, was able to figure out all the controls with a little help. We were able to get through it. Had a ton of fun playing it. We're actually currently going and playing the side quests now. We're cleaning up side quests, and I am now incredibly hyped. I mean, I already was hyped for Tiny Tina's Wonderland, but I am even more hyped for the game.
When's that dropping?
It drops, I want to say March 25th.
March 25th, spot on.
Yeah, nailed it. I'm just incredibly hyped over it. The game is so much fun, and the humor is, when it works, because that's an issue with Borderlands. Like, the humor's not always spot on.
Sure. Yeah.
Humor can miss a lot. This plays to like the fantasy RPG tropes really well, and the humor works really well because of that. And so I didn't feel as much like you've got a bunch of like drunk frat boys writing a story.
Speaking my language.
Yeah, it works a lot better. The game is a ton of fun. And like I said, if you got PlayStation Plus, it's free. So there's no reason not to download it. Even if you don't plan on playing it right now, you can play it in the future when you're bored of everything else.
Borderlands of anything else.
Yeah.
So talk to me more about this rolling. So like, because obviously with Dungeons and Dragons, the whole thing, you roll for initiative, you roll to attack, you roll to defend, all these things. So how much of the game, like, what? Yeah, talk to me about the rolling aspect, like the D&D specific aspect of this game.
So in the game, a lot of the rolling for initiatives, that's going to be played out in the narrative aspect. Like they do it for you, and you'll hear your characters talking, and they'll be like, "Oh, we fucked this up." It's built in.
Got it.
There are aspects though where you'll find loot crates, which Borderlands is a looter shooter. This is what the game is built around: is guns, 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 guns. And you'll stumble across crates all across the world. There's like, I want to say 8 different like maps. There's just like sets of levels that you go to. Throughout those, you'll stumble across crates that you actually have to roll to see what how rare the gear is. So if you roll like a 1, you're going to get just straight up common shit that's garbage.
That's cool.
If you roll like a 20, you'll get all legendary gear. And it's like a really cool mechanic that they implemented. Great. So it makes sense in context. You'll also, and obviously a slight spoiler, there is a side quest where you have to get a sword that's been lodged into a rock golem. And it's like, this is the badass sword of badassdom. And so like you get this sword and you get it to one of the side characters, Torg, who he runs like a company that he just makes nothing but explosive weapons. Like that's his whole character is that everything blows up that he builds you a shotgun that shoots swords and it just launches like 7 swords come out. Like every shotgun blast like 7 bullets or 7 swords, and they just explode. And every time it does, you'll just hear him like pop up randomly, and he'll just like explosion. And it's like, it works, man. It works. It's cheesy, it's goofy, but it works, and it works really well. And honestly, like Borderlands, like you can slide it for all sorts of different reasons. One thing you can't slide is the gameplay is fun. Like
for sure.
Shooting feels great. And the looter shooter mechanic on like trying to constantly upgrade gear, the skill trees and everything plays really well. I will say that with the Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, it's going to be way heavier emphasis on being more Dungeons and Dragons. Like there's going to be like more magic that you can have. So your character builds are going to be way different, and you're not limited. Like they said before, like you'll have like character classes, but your skill trees, you can make them more focused on what you want to be. And so you're not like pigeonholed into having a character who like their only skill is that they throw a turret down and like that's what you get. Sure. Or someone else might have the ability to be invisible for however long. Like this is going to give you way more ability to play the style you want to play. So I'm looking forward to the advancements. I will say one of the big downsides to the one shot, it doesn't have the quality of life updates that you got with Borderlands 3. So there are some aspects that are a little bit like the loot ninjas, like that kind of situation that they got rid of in Borderlands 3. You still have to deal with that in this. So there are some quality of life improvements that aren't there that would have made it ultimately better. But you know, the game's short. It's like maybe 8 total hours to go through the whole story and do side quests and stuff. So like, you know, it's totally worth jumping into.
Nice.
And I'm hyped for the next game.
Hype. I've been playing more Sifu, and man, that game is so good, but it's so hard. Like I've made progress. So when last we spoke, I was stuck on level 3 of 5. I am now stuck on level 5 of 5. I cannot I finally figured out the way to beat that third boss. And I'm to the point now where like I've gotten through that level, I think as young as like 27. So like I'm definitely making progress with that. But the last one, it does this really frustrating thing that like I understand the reason they do it. But a lot of the kind of things that you have unlocked in the game, the different powers, you can't use in the final fight. Because he's like so strong. He just like, well, you can't ever get those kind of moves on him. And I'm like, while I understand the purpose here, I don't know that I want to spend 10 more hours grinding and figuring out like how to use all of these other combos I've not unlocked. I guess these other combos are the ones that he can be hurt by. I'm not totally sure. It's much more just a straight up hand-to-hand combat fight with the final guy, which is like is cool, and I understand like the allure of that and the kind of making it feel like you're really in it. But like I am ready to finish this game and I am not anywhere close. And so, and like with Horizon coming out tomorrow as of recording, I'm afraid that I'm not going to beat this game. And I want to get the platinum. I want, cause like it is so fun. Like I've been having so much fun grinding these first 4 levels and powering things up and figuring out like ways to get past these characters and whatnot. But it just, the difficulty spike on this last boss fight, it's like I went from like the base of Mount Everest to the peak of Mount Everest in one fight. And I'm just like, that's just, it's too much for me. I don't.
Yeah.
And like, it could be that I'm just missing something. Cause like, I kind of said that with the last one, but like in hindsight, there was just like a specific move that she was doing that I couldn't figure out how to stop. And once I figured out how to stop the move, I was like, okay, now I know how to do this. But with this, it's like, well, I can't use my moves. I just have to like block you and punch you and like do specific combos. And I'm not good at the combo stuff. I'm good at the blocking and like using the powers, but I'm not, but you can't use the power. So anyway, a little too in the weeds there, but yeah, go ahead.
Do you want to feel bad?
Make me feel so bad, Cameron.
So last night I watched a speed run of Sifu.
Oh man, how quick?
40 minutes.
Wow. And this was no like they weren't breaking the game at all. They were just actually beating it in 40 minutes. Wow, that's just like that's incredible.
Like skipping all cinematics. I think this was like post beating the game, obviously.
Sure.
So they had unlocked like I guess there's probably shortcuts or whatnot because
there are like, shortcuts in the levels.
Like breezing through the levels like fairly quickly, and I was seeing them skip things that I'd seen video clips of before. So I'm assuming that they had gone through, but 40 minutes to beat the game, and they did it all at age 20.
Wow, never died once. There are 2 of the levels you can. Well, one of the levels you can just immediately fight the boss. Like once you've gotten to the boss, you can immediately fight him or her. You just take an elevator. 2 of them you have to go through like 5 minutes at like I'm sure this person did it in 5 minutes, probably like 5 to 15 minutes of fighting lower.
If it makes you feel any better though, they almost died on the 3rd boss.
Oh yeah, yeah. That
was the hardest one, yeah, for them.
Yeah, that, and I'm sure like there must be ways to Yang is the final boss's name. There must be ways to be able to fight Yang and like because I mean this person did it in 40 minutes and obviously took care of Yang pretty easily. I need to watch that actually and see what they're doing. Because yeah, I love the game. I think it's so cool. I think it's like I highly recommend it. I just don't know that I'll ever get to finish it.
Hey, well, good news is, and I don't know if we discussed this on the last episode.
No, we didn't.
But the good news is that they announced that they will be releasing a patch to make the game easier. And then I think also it comes with a patch to make the game harder as well.
Yeah. That's the rumor.
So, you know, if you're someone like me who isn't very good at video games and really dislikes incredibly difficult challenges and like hardcore grinding like that, and not even grinding to get better because you're getting better stuff or you're leveling up, but just to grind your skills so they're better.
Right.
Hey, guess what? There's an easier mode coming for people like us. So
yeah, I mean, hopefully it comes soon-ish because I like the thing with this game, like to your point, if you step away from this game for a couple of weeks, you're gonna have to just relearn all of it. Like it's a muscle memory type game, and so I hope that comes soon, but we'll see. So moving on to the first real story of the day, Cayman. One of the most hotly anticipated video games of the year is coming out this week. It's Horizon Forbidden West for the PlayStation 5, developed by Guerrilla Games. Guerrilla Studio? Guerrilla? What's their full name?
It's Guerrilla Games.
Guerrilla Games? GG. Famously, I said this game was going to outscore God of War Ragnarok. Now, of course, God of War Ragnarok hasn't come out yet, so we only have one half of this, but the scores are very strong. But unless God of War Ragnarok really underperforms, I don't think that prediction is going to be coming true. But we've pulled a couple reviews for you, one from IGN, one from GameSpot. So we'll talk about those, and then, you know, we can talk a little bit about other things we've been hearing. Obviously, since we've not been playing the game, I'll tackle the first one, Cayman, if you can do the second. This is from Simon Cardy at IGN. They gave Horizon Forbidden West a 9 out of 10. He says, a triumphant combination of enthralling combat, top-tier creature and character design, and a captivating open world, Horizon Forbidden West is an absolute blast and fantastic showcase for the power of the PlayStation 5. Although the return of a couple of familiar series trappings and a noticeable lack of freeform climbing never threatens to derail the enjoyment, it does leave it falling. I couldn't tell if that said failing or falling frustratingly short of something revolutionary. Major evolutionary steps have firmly been placed in the right direction, however, and there's no doubting the many, many hours of fun to have with Aloy, who stakes her claim further to be one of this generation of gaming's greatest characters. Guerrilla has outdone itself yet again with Forbidden West, and at this trajectory, neither the horizon nor the sky's the limit for what could come next. Very cheeky, Simon.
Very cheeky. The next review comes from Phil Hornshaw at GameSpot, who gave the game an 8 out of 10. Phil says, Horizon Forbidden West does a lot more right than it does wrong. It might be jam-packed with stuff to see, do, know, and remember, but when its many systems come together, it can be a beautiful, exciting, and delightful open-world experience. The story that drives you through the frontier is often well told and does well to center actual characters rather than audio logs, and while the map is littered with icons, it's much more often that they're fun, skillfully crafted diversions than random busy work to fill a checklist. There's a huge amount to do and see in Horizon Forbidden West, and the great majority of it is worth doing and seeing thanks to strong writing, great visuals, and some marked improvements to the series' underlying ideas. So,
man, this has got me excited.
Currently sitting at a Metacritic of 89. There's been, and I feel like it's necessary that we address the backlash. Obviously, it's people who haven't been able to play the game. Guys, shut the fuck up. Look, an 89 is incredible. Like, that is an incredible score.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Look, as someone who might be considered like a Sony pony, like, I am not offended in the slightest that this game got an 89. Like, dude, I am hyped as hell for this game.
Yeah.
I think this is awesome. Like, would it be great or would it be really cool to see a game get a 10 out of 10? Sure. But let's be honest. Deathloop last year got a 10 out of 10, and I wasn't a fan.
Game of the year for me.
Yeah, and so
but yeah,
the review scores mean jack shit if you enjoy it. What I would tell anyone, whether it be an audience member, a best friend, or someone who I just didn't know off the street, is find a reviewer that has the same interest that you have and listen to what they say.
Maybe it's us.
Maybe it's us, yeah. Maybe it's us. And the thing is what I think it's like Patrick and I, like, we disagree on a lot of things. Like, I was not a fan of Deathloop. I understood why people really enjoyed it. It made sense to me. Didn't hit that box for me on like a game that I would play for a long time. But with something like Yakuza Like a Dragon, I loved, Patrick couldn't get into. Like, it happens. And
Eamon thinks we should colonize the moon. I don't.
Yeah. Oh, I 100% believe we should colonize the moon. But like, look, the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, like, if you enjoy a game, if you enjoyed the first Horizon, you're going to enjoy this one too. I can promise you that. I know I'm going to enjoy the game because I'm just excited to play Horizon again.
Yeah, me too.
I watched Sid play through the entirety of it recently, and like, just even watching it, like, got me incredibly excited for the game. It doesn't matter if someone gave it a 6 out of 10 or if someone gave it a 10 out of 10. Who cares?
Yeah.
As long as you're enjoying the game, that's what matters. It doesn't matter if anyone else did.
Yeah, it's so disheartening, like, being reminded when a game like this comes out that the majority of fans of video games are toxic motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Who have this like vision of what they want, and if it doesn't check those boxes, they become fucking terrorists about like going after people, giving them death threats and all this shit. And it's so inappropriate. It's such bullshit. And it's disheartening that like that is the space we are actively going into, but it's because we love the art form so much. It just sucks that it's filled with, and it's just fans. These aren't like the people that are actively like in games journalism or creating games. Like, these are the people who just play them, but they're so entitled that they just ruin shit. Like a game getting an 89 out of 100 on Metacritic. Like,
you know, what I find interesting is that there wasn't the same level of vitriol when Dying Light 2 came out and sat at a 77 on Metacritic. Like,
that's a great point.
So the question is like, well, what's the disconnect there?
Sure.
Is it because like we've gotten to a point with the way that console exclusivity has come where people just feel like they're like, well, if I own this game, it has to be a 10 out of 10. Like, I don't understand it. And whatever the reasoning that anyone has when it comes down to it, there's no world that you should ever send a death threat to anyone. Like, I mean, sure, there's probably some people who are terrible and, you know, shouldn't be applauded, but no one like sending a like death threat to a reviewer, or like when God of War was delayed, like some of the stuff that was sent to Alana Pierce, who, like, why would you say that to another human being? Like, some of the things that people have said to these people, it's disgusting. Like, I think that's the only word that you can use for it. It is disgusting. It's inhuman. It's terrible. And look, the game comes out tomorrow. I'm excited for it. If you enjoyed the game, look, I can promise you, you're going to probably enjoy it too. And look, if you don't have a PlayStation and you're on Xbox, like, that sucks. I wish you could play this too. And if you just want to come and hang out and watch me play it, and I'll let you play it if you want to come and sit with me, like, you're more than welcome. Like, we should all be able to enjoy games regardless of what console it's on, regardless of who made it. Like, we should all be able to enjoy it. And if it doesn't get a perfect score, there's no reason to act like an asshole about it. And, you know, I think that's just like, we're here. We live in a world now. Like, look, there's enough terrible shit going on right now. Like,
there is.
This is a non-story. Like, this should not be a problem.
Yeah.
But, and I'll say it one more time. If you're doing this stuff, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Just shut the fuck up.
It's a shame that the topic, which is supposed to just be talking about how great this game is being received critically, is just being overshadowed by how loud the internet is about being assholes. But the ultimate message here is Reviewers are saying this game fucking rules.
Yeah.
So if you're excited for it, only take this as more excitement, not that a bunch of people are pissed off about literally nothing. And you know what? Actually, here's an interesting question before we move on to the next story. Do you think part of the reason that this is being so divisive, you might say, or so attacked, is because the protagonist is a woman? Because like with Dying Light, the protagonist is not a woman. This might be me forcing a thing, but it just something that I noticed is that since there aren't a ton of games where you play as a woman, this is one of them, and it is a very high profile AAA game, and might be something different though. It might just be that it's a PlayStation exclusive and the console wars are stupid. And all that stuff.
It's an interesting point you bring up. I can't say for sure, obviously.
For sure.
I would lean that the reason the vitriol is coming is not because the character is a woman, because categorically we've seen when these sorts of situations come up, the gamers can be sexist.
Right.
Quite a bit.
Correct.
And so, like, I distinctly remember, like, how much hate Naughty Dog got because of the character of Abby.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great
which
point.
I never understood.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Look, if you want to critique a game based on the gameplay, if you believe that Naughty Dog, like, the reason that you didn't like Last of Us Part 2 was because the Abby segments weren't fun, then that's a valid critique. To say, I don't like this game because I had to play as a woman.
Right.
Or this woman doesn't look like my sexual fantasies of a woman is.
Correct.
Once again, shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up.
Go, like, I hate to even use this phrase because I feel like it gets used in a lot of bad ways, but like touch grass. I don't know. Like,
I've actually not heard that phrase. Weirdly.
I feel like look, if your whole thing is based around the fact, like, especially with the Abby situation, was like a lot of people are angry because they're like, women shouldn't have muscles like that. Like, dude, just I don't even know.
You have not met very many women, sir.
I don't like. What do? You just watch porn all day? Like,
this is actually
another human. Like, what the fuck?
Actually, that's a really great segue for another issue about this. In that this one guy, there's been so many funny dunks on this guy. He tweeted a picture, like a close-up picture of Aloy, and you can see, like, on the side of Aloy's face,
God, yeah,
she has like peach fuzz, like all humans do, especially
even
like, women who don't have a beard. Like, it's a very normal thing for a woman to have like that kind of like little peach fuzz happening. It's just like hair on your skin. It's like a very normal thing. And he was like, I don't even remember exactly what he said, but he basically was saying, why the fuck are they giving Aloy a beard? And someone quote tweeted it and was like, I forget exactly what they said too. This is a really bad setup, but essentially it was like, you've obviously never been close to a woman if you don't realize that is a, like, maybe not all women, but like, it's a very common like trait of a woman's face. And I thought it was so funny how this person was just getting dunked and dunked and dunked on.
Yeah, that one was something.
Yeah.
That's a hard line to take.
Yeah.
On the internet where things never go away.
Yeah. Right. Right.
You're gonna, like, whoever this person is, like bong hitter 42069.
Yeah.
This dude, he'll never escape.
He'll
be 80 years old.
I would pay to have seen his face when he first put the pieces together. Like, oh, yeah, I'm the one that's wrong here. I would have paid so much money to see that face.
Do you think that like the person legitimately is like they acknowledge that they're just an idiot, or like do you think that they just sit there and they're like, nope, no,
that.
No, man, my real doll ain't got no hair on her face. It's all latex.
Correct. A latex face can't have a beard. Next. Yeah.
Now who's wrong? Like, fuck off, dude.
Yeah.
These fucking losers,
no, what he probably did was block it, like stop the notifications on that thread and just move on and just go talk shit about something else and just wait for people to stop talking. But
yeah.
Anyway, next thing, this is actually something I'm kind of yelling. This is something that I'm very excited about, which is something that I predicted a few weeks ago would I predicted this would not happen. And here I am on February 16th, not a full 2 months into the year, being told I'm wrong. So CD Projekt Red, the creators of Cyberpunk 2077, The Witcher 3, among many other video games, has finally released, they kind of shadow dropped the updates for the current gen version, so for PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. They went on Twitter. This was, let's see, what today is Wednesday. Recording goes out Thursday, so this was Tuesday. Tuesday they tweeted that they were doing this or Monday they tweeted that they were doing like a video announcement of some new things coming to the game, and they did the announcement. And it turns out that they've been very quiet recently because they've essentially been rebuilding the game. Like when you go through the things that have come out in this patch, this 1.5 patch, it really seems like they have just kind of rebuilt a lot of the game from the ground up. They've completely overhauled systems like how perks work and how AI functions, and like in combat and not in combat. And like the list, it's like, if it was on words, probably 30 pages long of all the things they're doing. But ultimately, the big news is it now has an optimized for PS5 and Xbox Series S and X patch where you can run on 60 frames per second, 4K, ray tracing, all that stuff. And I'm sure on PC it's just even better than it was, since supposedly PC was kind of the only like decent way to have played the game before. But I, for one, I am stunned that this is actually happening. And I am excited because, let's see, this originally came out 14 months ago. 14 months ago. So let's say 30 months ago, this was like my most anticipated game. And
that's totally justified. I mean, I played it on the PlayStation 5 probably after one of the first big patches came out that like fixed a lot of the bugs. And look, I really enjoyed my time with it. And I've said on the show before that I really enjoyed my time with it. I thought it was a fun game. I could 100% tell you that it wasn't optimized. I could tell you that a lot of what they claim was going to be in it wasn't there. And then you got like news stories coming out, like Jason Schreier tweeted out where it was like the like developers inside of CD Projekt Red were like, when they said it was going to be coming on its release date, they just laughed and they were like, okay, like it become a meme inside CD Projekt Red because they're like, this game is not going to be done until 2022. But look, they sprung it on the public. They got a lot of deserved backlash for everything. And truth of the matter is, whether you attempted to play it on the PlayStation 4 and it was completely broken like I did, or you were lucky enough to get a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X or have a PC that could run it, eventually it became a playable game, a game that was enjoyable. Now that we're actually in a genuine launch state that it should have been on day one, like I'm excited. Like, unfortunately, we've got Horizon, we got Elden Ring.
I know, like what a
Wonderlands.
What a bad time to be releasing it. But I honestly, like, so this right before we started recording came in. I'm shoveling some chicken tendies down my face because I'm hungry because I hadn't eaten, and I'm like, I start downloading Cyberpunk on my PlayStation 5. I'm like, Am I more excited to play Cyberpunk than Horizon right now? I don't think I am. But like I genuinely had that thought. And so now I'm like, shit, I'm gonna have to wait until after Horizon, after Elden Ring to get to play this game. Unless either of them end up not working for me, then I'll play it sooner. But
yeah, this is gonna be a game that, I mean, well, I say when things slow down, but the way that Nintendo's launch schedule is like,
that's true.
Who knows if we're even going to have like a slow summer. Right. But this, look, I will replay it. And what I'll probably do is, because you can start the game, at the beginning of the game, you start as the option where you can play as, it's like, I'm trying to think, there was like three different
classes.
Yeah, it's like 3 different story like origin stories you can have.
Yeah.
And it alters some of the game as you play it. One of the things that I did read, though, is that there is apparently some issues with the way that the game's like save file transfers.
Yeah.
There might be, it might end up where I don't even have to like make the decision to not go back and play as the character I had before. It might just force me to start a brand new character, which is fine because I think what I'll do is actually just start a brand new character choose a different origin story and then kind of go from there. But look, I mean, the game is fun, even in the state that it was when I played it. I'm like, how exciting it is that to actually play it in the state that it should have been.
Right.
Is really cool. I don't think we've really ever had a situation to this magnitude. You got games like Mass Effect Andromeda or like the original Dying Light that on launch weren't perfect. Through patches and updates and whatnot, the game becomes better. And so if you do join on later, you end up getting a game that was critically panned that turns out to be actually a very good game.
Yeah.
But this, I don't think the industry has ever seen it on this level. And, I'm, like I said, when it slows down or if Cyberpunk doesn't, or not Cyberpunk, if Horizon doesn't, hit boxes, which that's a silly idea.
More so Elden Ring for me.
Yeah.
The other cool thing for any of you out there that have a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series S or X that don't own Cyberpunk, they also launched a 5-hour trial. So it's one of those things where like when they announced that it's coming, I'm like, okay, well, let's actually wait and see if it actually works. But for them to say, hey, you can download the entire game and play it for 5 hours tells me like, no, it's going to work. There will probably be bugs. It's a huge game. Like there's going to be, I'm sure there's going to be bugs in Horizon Forbidden West. I'm sure there's going to be bugs in Elden Ring. Like games of this size don't come completely polished. It's just not possible. And so I'm sure there's going to be bugs, but yeah, for them to say, hey, you can play 5 hours free, like no guardrails, nothing, that tells me that like, okay, we believe in this now. Like it's going to work.
Yeah.
So that's
awesome.
Yeah.
That's very much a very different approach that they took when the game launched originally, where it was like, we won't even show you what it looks like on last gen consoles.
Right.
We won't do it. And so for them to do that, that's pretty great.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it is a disappointment that I haven't played it, so I guess I shouldn't necessarily jump to a conclusion. It's disappointing that it sounds like we're still never going to get the game that they said we were going to get. But this is as close probably as it's ever going to be. But it's still, I'm in no way not excited at the moment. I just hope I got time for it. Cool. So next thing we're going to talk about, Cayman, is what a transition that was. Next thing we're going to talk about Uncharted, one of our favorite video games. A movie on the day of release of this episode is out, and that movie is called Uncharted. It is based on the video games made by Naughty Dog. There are 4+1, so 5 full-on video games. And this is they're going their own way. They're doing like a younger Nathan Drake, the titular character. I guess not titular. His name is not Uncharted. But what I'm getting at here is that reviews aren't great. It's got a 38 on Rotten Tomatoes. You were so kind as to pull some little one-shot blurb reviews, good and bad.
You say you were so kind. I actually enjoyed this. This was probably the highlight of my day.
Great.
Was pulling these reviews.
Hell yeah.
As Patrick said, it is a 38% of Rotten Tomatoes, which I would also like to point out that on Tuesday of this week, Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City came out, which has a 31% on Rotten Tomatoes.
So it's 7% a better film than Welcome to Raccoon City is what I'm being told.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. Is 38% a disappointment? Yes. Is it better than what I expected? Maybe. Only because video game movies historically are always bad. But I'm still going to see it. I don't know that I'm going to see it in theaters. I'm still going to see it. And I'm hoping that I get exactly what I expected, which is a stupid action movie that isn't trash. But
well, okay. I think like when you use the word trash,
lowercase t trash.
Lowercase t. Okay. Lowercase
t. Garbage. Let me say garbage.
A garbage film. You're right. Let's get into it. We're going to start off with a couple of the good reviews. And I say good in like huge quotations because all of these reviews barely made it into the fresh category, which if you're not familiar with the way that Rotten Tomatoes works, they break it down into if the film scores higher than 50% out of either up to 5, up to 4, up to 10, whatever. If it makes it over 50%, they consider it fresh. If it makes it below 50%, it's considered rotten.
Which honestly, I don't know that I agree with this scale. Because like if you're looking at a tomato, right? If you say to me, this tomato is 50% fresh, that's not fresh, dog. That's fucking like half rotten to me. I feel like fresh has got to be like 80% at the worst. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we're looking at a tomato,
I guess it depends on like obviously neither one of us are scientists and we don't have degrees in food. And so I feel like it's inappropriate for me to speak on this as an expert, but like, where is is it just like, well, the texture has some smooshy spots,
sure,
but if you cut into it, it's still edible.
How deeply do they go in the detail of what exactly a rotten and a fresh tomato means? That's a really great point. I think we need to get some people from Rotten Tomatoes on the phone. We need to bring them in the podcast right now, get them to explain their scale to us.
Exactly.
Because look, I had some tomato plants out back recently, and we ended up growing, I think, 3 tomatoes.
Nice.
And I would say none of them were not rotten, meaning none of them were fresh. And they seemed kind of fresh, came in. So like I would have said they maybe 50-60% fresh, but I wasn't eating it. Anyway, let's
okay, hold on. Before we do you think that potentially they're taking in like the green phase where it's not fully ripe? So like or do you think they like tend to start, you know what, fuck it, let's just get into this. I think we're getting in the weeds.
Sure.
All right. First review, and these reviews are very short. They're little snippets, blurbs, one might say. This comes from Michael O'Sullivan from the Washington Post. He says, quote, "Far-fetched? Yes. Inconceivable, eye-rolling, absurd too. It feels a bit unreasonable to expect anything more or less from Uncharted."
And this is a good review.
This is a good review. The next review comes from Jeffrey Vega from IGN. He says, "Uncharted plays it safe, but it's mostly a fun and effective adventure, especially with a charming Tom Holland."
See, that's decent.
That's good, yeah. And then here comes my favorite good review from Owen Gleiberman from Variety. He says, "Watchable in a thin, quote, Raiders of the Lost National Treasure of the Fast and the Furious Caribbean type of way."
Oh, now we're talking. Owen knows exactly what I want from this movie.
Exactly. So, just remember, folks, those were good reviews.
Wow, that's so funny. Raiders of the Lost National Treasure of the Fast and Furious Caribbean.
Now,
that's a movie I would devour.
Unfortunately, when you have a score of 38%, the fresh reviews or the good reviews are few and far between.
Yeah.
We have a few more on the bad side. Let's get into it. Doug Walker from Channel Awesome says, "If I didn't know this was based on a very good video game, I'd say this movie would make a very boring video game."
Oh, yikes.
Here comes Roger Moore, the infamous Roger Moore from Movie Nation. He says, Is this movie stupid and dull or what?" One of my personal favorites. This is Dominic Griffin from Looper. He says, "When one finds themselves tired of vanilla, French vanilla only goes so far."
Look, that's really funny. I'm not a vanilla guy, but if I'm choosing vanilla, I'm going to choose French vanilla, a vanilla bean.
Oh, 100%.
And it truly only goes so far. That's really, really funny.
Goes so far. Next review comes from Clarice Lowry from The Independent. Do you ever watch Ted Lasso?
Yeah.
Do you remember Trent from The Independent?
Yeah.
Best character. One of the best characters. Sorry. So this comes from Clarice Lowry.
This is Trent's coworker.
This is Trent's coworker. She says, "Abandon all hope, all ye who enter here. There truly is no future for the video game to movie adaptation if Hollywood can't even crack Uncharted."
And I mean, that is the review. That is the spot on here. Obviously, I haven't seen it, but like Uncharted, the game is built as a pulpy action movie as a video game. And if they can, that's so true. If they can't even nail the video game that is supposed to be like a movie, it's not a good look.
If you love those reviews, let's finish it off with Peter Bradshaw from Guardian with the best review of all.
Oh boy.
With laser-guided precision, with the exactitude of a Nobel-winning rocket scientist or a world-class neurosurgeon, this film measures right up to what you'd expect from a movie based on a PlayStation video game.
Woof.
So I think we've prattled on, and I think we all kind of expected this.
Yeah, I know.
But goddamn.
I mean, look, from the time the casting was announced, I wasn't a fan. I was like, this does not feel good to me. Yeah. This doesn't feel like
I read so many reviews pulling all of these. I feel like I haven't even seen the film, and I feel like I'm an expert on the film. And
does anyone have anything good to say about Antonio Banderas?
Actually, in all of the reviews that I read, he's mentioned very much as like an anecdote, or not an anecdote. He's just like
the exception to the rule.
No, not even that. Just
not even that.
Ooh. Like, look, his character's boring. He doesn't add anything to the story. You would forget about him if you didn't know he was Antonio Banderas.
Wow, that's a shame.
The consensus across the board is that this is a action movie with little to no heart that relies way too much on big CGI set pieces that really aren't fantastically done, that are ultimately somewhat boring.
Yeah.
And man, it's horribly miscast, which I think we already knew.
Yeah.
With the positives being everybody loves Tom Holland. He's a sweet little boy. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah. This fills me with so much anxiety about the Last of Us television show happening.
I don't know, man. I don't feel as much worry there.
Yeah. I hope not. I know that, to my understanding, I mean, this might be misguided only because I saw a specific document, like a featurette about Uncharted that it was Neil Druckmann and Tom Holland doing a little conversation for Instagram or whatever, which told me, the viewer, oh, Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog have a hand in this movie. And I know with The Last of Us show, he is I don't think he's the showrunner, but he is very high up in the creative. He's writing a lot of it. He's directing some of it, maybe not. He's the creator of the show. And so I'm like, well, if he's involved in Uncharted and it's not doing well, then I'm like, oh, do we think?
So and I'll tell you, I think this is why I'm not as worried about The Last of Us. One, I think The Last of Us is cast. The cast that they have for that show on paper makes sense. The Uncharted movie, the cast, none of it made sense. One of the reviews, I didn't include it, but basically it was you're going to tell us the most boring origin story for these characters,
right,
that we didn't need. But I think the other reason The Last of Us will work where this failed is that Uncharted is based off of the pulp adventure, genre, right? So Indiana Jones, that kind of
pulpy, I see where you're going.
Action. Yeah. So even if you did it well, you're still gonna get slapped down because you're essentially trying to reach a level of some of the most well-known, most beloved action films of all time.
That's a really good point.
I don't think that Uncharted ever needed a movie. I don't think Uncharted works as a movie because you've got so many things that came before it that if you try to really do something different, you're just going to fall to the trappings of attempting to create Indiana Jones again. And you don't need to do that.
That's a really good point.
Where it feels like The Last of Us, when Logan came out, one of the big things that everyone said was Logan is pulling a lot from The Last of Us.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a complete flip, right? you are going to have the people who've never played Last of Us, know nothing about Last of Us, but saw Logan. And you're going to have people being like, this TV show is just like Logan.
Sure.
Like you will have that. There's going to be those comparisons, which obviously is bullshit. And even to an extent, The Last of Us took a lot from the Japanese films from the early 70s, the Lone Wolf and Cub series, which was actually based off a manga. We can get way in the weeds on that. But I feel like The Last of Us has a less well-trodden path to go.
I mean, it's more of an original story.
Yeah, and you can do more there. Also, it's way heavier on story and character interactions and those minutia of having two people together in a world like that, where Uncharted, as much as I love Uncharted, Uncharted's an incredible video game because it's an interactive adventure where you're doing crazy stunts, you're doing all this crazy stuff, and it works. But like, to translate that to screen, like, this was doomed from day one.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to happen. Now, look, I could eat my words when the show releases. I hope not.
I really hope you don't eat your words.
But the Uncharted movie was going to fail, and it failed multiple times before we even got this far.
That's also a good point, is that like this, it kind of was in development hell for a long time. It was in limbo.
When the original script was being written, the person who was supposed to play Nathan Drake was Mark Wahlberg, who's now playing Sully, Nathan Drake's mentor. That will tell you how long this has taken to get us this far. Yeah, that's a good point. The thing is, the likelihood we get a sequel is incredibly low. And probably for good.
That all depends on box office. If it sells tickets.
I mean, with these reviews, that might be a tough ask.
Sure.
This will be a movie that I pick up to add to my collection later. Yeah, sure. You might pick up some kids or something.
Yeah. But yeah, no, you're right.
I mean, and also it's coming out in dump month. Like, movies that get dropped in February, there's like a whole reason on why. But like, it just shows the studio knew this wasn't going to be good. We're still in a pandemic. They could have pushed off. If they thought the movie was going to perform incredibly well, they could have pushed off and dumped it in summer. And where these movies typically fall, they didn't. And it leads a lot of credence that I think the studio knew that this was going to fail. And if the box office comes back and it shows that this movie doesn't work, then I think it all plays to exactly the issues. And, honestly, we'll see. I mean, who knows?
I do to kind of go back to The Last of Us indirectly.
Mm-hmm.
I do worry that if this movie doesn't perform, because this is kind of the first, this is PlayStation Studios coming out party of like, hey, we're starting to really put our foot in the TV and film world. And if their first thing out is just a total flop, I wonder what butterfly effect that has on other projects currently in development. Mm-hmm. Like right now, the rumors are we're getting a Twisted Metal series, which I'm okay if you scrap that personally.
Yep.
Obviously, The Last of Us. There are other things that are in the works that I'm wondering if this has any sort of butterfly effect.
I think, and I could be completely wrong.
It could be.
I think Sony, because they're making bukus of money with Spider-Man, and they're making a lot of money elsewhere doing other things. I think at the end of the day, Sony's going to give this a little bit more time. It might mean that some of these shows, some of these movies that they might have in the works, they're going to be reworked quite a bit, and it might take longer to get the next one.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this hedges on the success of The Last of Us. If that bombs, then I foresee there being a huge shakeup at Sony and a lot of backtracking on ideas and things they have in the works right now.
Sure.
But, I think ultimately we all kind of knew this movie, and you got to think that the Sony execs also kind of knew that this probably wasn't going to be, a huge hit or end up, but it's got Tom Holland. He's got star appeal and pull.
Yeah.
So it could play. I mean, obviously we won't know until probably a month down the line when movies start kicking off. And who knows, this might give them more of a reason for them to try to put this out on video on demand as well, to try to see if they can pick up people there.
Yeah, I mean, if this was being released day and date on video demand, I would rent it for $20 to watch it. Even though it's not getting great reviews, I would support it and watch it because I love Uncharted. I love Tom Holland. I am indifferent about Mark Wahlberg. I love Antonio Banderas. Like I would support it. But what I'm not going to do is go to a theater. If I'm going to a theater, I'm going to go see Spider-Man again because I only got to see it once. And I just love seeing those kinds of movies on the big screen. I just am not super comfortable going to a movie theater right now. Although I guess I wouldn't have to worry about Uncharted being very full. Anyway, well, I'm excited to also see there was a potential fourth story, but we're scrapping it other than to say Netflix, it has been leaked and announced that Netflix is in the works making a BioShock movie. Apparently it's been in the works for a couple years now in terms of like getting all the contracts signed away. No one is actually attached to it yet, but they are officially saying that it's happening. So I'm interested to see, because that's another one of those ones where like Uncharted wasn't really one of them, to your point, but BioShock is one of the ones where it's like, okay, if there's a video game movie, this is one of them. Like this would be an incredible movie.
Originally Gore Verbinski, famous director, he was actually tied to the original, because this has been the works. Like they had this film had been greenlit years ago and just stuck in development hell. But he was actually tied to it. So I'm wondering if he will come back, because I know this is like he wanted to do this. That'd be really cool to see. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, this is one of those where until there's a director attached to it, like there's really not much else to say outside of Netflix has a lot of money.
And The Witcher is one of the most successful Netflix shows ever. So they're like, oh, we can actually make money on video game things. Let's do more video game things.
Yeah.
So we'll see if they actually can do it though. But I'm sure we'll be talking about that more right here on the Spotlight Games podcast when more news releases. But until then, that is the end of our show. Thank you for coming along on this ride, Cayman.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for coming along on this ride, listeners and viewers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Patrick Swag, at Kid Cayman, at Spot Games Pod for the pod on Twitter, at Spotlight Games for the pod on Instagram. No, at Spotlight Games Podcast on Instagram. Rate it, review it, YouTube it, all that shit. Save Charge Cinema. We're recording a new episode today as of releasing, to be released next week as of releasing this episode. So keep your beaver tails on the lookout for that, for Zombievers.
Oh, yeah.
And fucking let us know what you're playing, dogs.
Yeah. Let's know what you're playing, dogs.
Oh my God. You know what we didn't do?
What we didn't do?
Vamp for me. I wanted to, on the podcast, show because I never posted it on socials, which I need to do, the fan art that we got.
Oh shit, we got some incredible fan art.
Some fucking so funny. Okay, let me do a quick. So if you're listening, why don't you go over to the YouTube link, which is in the description of the podcast on the app that you're listening to. Go to the YouTube, scroll to the end. While you're here, subscribe. Can't access your screen. Try capturing a different screen if this continues. I swear to God, if this doesn't work, and I'm recording because I don't want to have to fucking edit this out, Cayman. There we go.
There we go. Oh boy, look at this sweet baby boy.
Look at that sweet little butt.
I think we have to be a little cagey here. We can't tell our listeners. They should go to the fucking YouTube channel.
All I'm going to say,
this sweet little butt.
They should see this sweet little butt. All I'm going to say is personal friend Sydney Lee. Hello, Sydney. I love you very much. Send us some fan art. And it is in reference to episode 17, which we talked all about Mario Kart and the leak that we had that the character Mario might be how you say naked. So why don't you come on over? Hey, this YouTube video might be taken down because this is vulgar, folks.
Oh boy. If that doesn't entice you,
I don't know what will. So yeah, so come on over to YouTube, give a look, scroll to the end of the video. And while you're here, like I said, subscribe. But yeah, I think it's so funny. She sent some other variations of it too. Let me scroll up. This one with the little
Oh, that's so handsome.
So
what
good.
a cutie. Guys, come to the YouTube channel.
Come to it.
Check out to see actually what we're talking about, because we're not going to describe this to you. You need to see with your own eyes.
Your own eyes. And that whole time below it said fucking Uncharted movie review. I'm so bad at this.
It's
okay.
Fine.
Okay. We're going to go. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for all of those things, my sweet friends. Until next week.
Till next week.
I love you.
Bye.
Bye.